Fly Me to the Moon. This movie was so fun. This was a movie that I was pleasantly surprised by because it's about spaceships and it's a rom com. And we have not had a good rom com in like 5 plus years. I can't even think of the last good blockbuster rom com. Usually you just get these on Netflix. But this movie was phenomenal. They didn't tie too much space stuff into it, so it was easy to understand. They had an A-list cast. You know, your leads are Scarlett Johansson and Channing Tatum, and their dynamic was actually incredible. I can't think of a single like horrible thing with this movie because they just did such a good job overall. The whole storyline is that you have Channing Tatum's character who is trying to get Apollo 11, which is the space trip where they land on the moon. He's trying to make that a success. So he is the mission leader or whatever they call him. Scarlett Johansson, she is the marketing manager because there's no funding for it. They need to actually make it where they can get the funding for it. In order to do that, they're having to do brand deals like watches, Kellogg's, even down to Fruit of the Loom underwear. They're just doing all this work to make this a success while also convincing the politicians to continue funding the project. So that's her role. And of course, they're kind of intertwined and falling in love, but it's not over the top. It's still about the space mission. And it leaves you with this question of the biggest conspiracy, one of the biggest conspiracies of, was the moon landing faked? And this movie, they have that whole concept in the background where, as a contingency, the government in the movie wants to fake the moon landing, and her character is trying to lead that and so forth, right? And it doesn't really answer the question. You know, I don't think that's something they're ever going to tell us if they faked it or not. But it did bring that up of, oh, it could be a set. Oh, it almost looks fake. And they had comedic elements throughout. And it tied up really well. It was more of a feel-good movie than I was expecting, but that's kind of needed. We haven't had a good feel-good movie in a while. We haven't had a good romance. We haven't had a good comedy. And this did all of it in a subtle way that wasn't in your face. I think a lot of rom-coms or comedies mess up, and you'll have like a Kevin Hart rom-com where it's too much comedy. Or you'll have, I can't even think of another actor that does romance movies, but it's just too much romance. And this was the perfect blend while keeping it a little bit nerdy and about space and having those stressful moments of what's going to happen. And I think this is really the year of Channing Tatum. I haven't seen him in a lot of movies in a while. The last thing I could think of him in is the Kingsman movie that came out. And that was a while back. And I know he has two big movies this year. And I kind of forgot how good of an actor he is. He's very much so just matured as he's gotten older. And he's phenomenal. He did such a great job. You could see his character. You could see the passion his character had for space and for all that, and the guilt he had for previous Apollo missions. And I wish I'd known if this was actually based off of all truth or not, but I didn't do any research, so I can't tell you that much. I will say that if I had to give this a ranking, I'd probably say a 9 out of a 10. This was one of my favorite movies I've watched so far in theaters this year. They just did such a great job, and it was hard to find any complaints. I always sit there in the theater and I'm like, man, like, what could be wrong with this? What can I say about this? And there just wasn't anything wrong. I'd say go see this in theaters, especially if you have someone take on a date. I personally don't, but I still enjoyed it. So that being said, if you don't have someone take on a date, you'd still enjoy seeing this. But it would be a really great date movie to go and see and then discuss afterwards. And oh, what do you think about the conspiracy? Because they kind of left it open at the end where, oh, it looks like it could be faked, but it could not be faked. And I think you guys will really enjoy this one. Please let me know down below what you think. I'm more excited to see Twisters that's coming out next week, but I was pleasantly surprised, and I highly recommend seeing this movie. That's all I got. Thanks. Bye.